They ridiculed him. His weathered coat, the shuffle of his feet, the lines on his face. To them, he was just another forgotten old man. Homeless, invisible, dismissed without a second glance. But they didn't know who he was. They had no idea about the medals packed away in a bag he no longer carried with pride. They had no knowledge of the life he once risked to save someone now judging him. This isn't just about cruelty. It's about justice coming back around. When the world finally remembered who he was, everything shifted. This is the story of Benjamin Harris, a soldier erased from history. Let's begin. The skies over Northfield were heavy, darkening as a low storm rolled in. Rain came down steadily, soaking the cracked sidewalks as an elderly man walked slowly through the mist. His head lowered beneath a faded baseball cap, his coat sagging from years of wear, torn at the cuffs, damp from the drizzle. His shoes, mismatched and worn, made no sound as he approached the courthouse. At first, no one noticed him. It wasn't until he pushed through the courthouse doors, dragging a frayed duffel bag behind him, that people turned their heads. The bag, its fabric darkened with years of neglect, made an almost mournful sound against the floor. The air smelled stale, damp wool, leather, and the faintest hint of sweat. A woman in pearls covered her nose. A clerk grimaced, and two men in business suits edged away from him. "Ugh, something died in here," one whispered. "Could be him," the other joked. Benjamin didn't flinch. His face, weathered and marked by years, showed no emotion. He just walked steadily toward the courtroom, each step slow but deliberate, leaving behind faint muddy prints. His duffel bag clunked gently with each movement. At the metal detector, a young guard barely glanced up. "Take off your hat," he ordered. Benjamin did so without a word, hesitating for only a moment as he slid his bag forward. Inside was all he had left, his past, his proof. The guard waved him through as though it meant nothing, a casual dismissal. The courtroom was quiet when Benjamin entered, all conversation dying as eyes turned toward him. A child looked up at his mother. "Why is that man so dirty?" The mother pulled the child close. "Don't stare." Benjamin took a seat at the defendant's table. No lawyer beside him, no one to speak for him, just a folded coat across his shoulders and a name tag that simply read, Harris B. Across the room, the prosecutor muttered to his assistant, "This is where our tax dollars go." A chuckle followed. Benjamin's gaze never wavered. He didn't look at them. He didn't look at the cameras. His eyes were locked on the wall in front of him, the state seal hanging above, a reminder of a system that had forgotten him. No family, no friends, no one there to speak up for him. Just a name and a bag full of reasons why he should still matter. Judge Lyle Martin entered with his robes flowing behind him, his expression as hard as stone. He didn't even glance at Benjamin, already assuming he knew this man. He had seen men like him before, hadn't he? Case 3027, State of Illinois versus Benjamin Harris. The courtroom settled into silence. A young assistant district attorney, James Reed, stood up. He adjusted his tie and cleared his throat before addressing the judge. "Your Honor, we present this case with one request. Efficiency." Reed began, his voice precise. "The defendant is a repeat offender, a public disturbance, and a physical threat. His latest incident, attacking a mall security officer, must not be overlooked simply because he's homeless." He gestured widely, as though to reinforce his argument. The law must be blind, but it cannot be lenient. Benjamin sat unmoving, silent as a statue. To his side, his public defender, Emily Wills, a young woman barely in her 30s, shuffled through paperwork. She didn't meet his gaze. She hadn't even asked about his story yet. Reed continued. 3 days ago, Mr. Harris was politely asked to leave a local mall. Instead, he threw a glass bottle at Officer Thomas Ellis, injuring him. Despite his service in the Gulf War, we assert that past service does not guarantee immunity. Benjamin's hands clenched, but his posture never wavered. Judge Martin glanced toward Emily. "Does the defense have a statement?" She stood up quickly, her voice a bit shaky. "Your Honor, my client acknowledges the incident and seeks leniency. We're not contesting the charge." Benjamin looked up, confused. "That's not." Reed cut in, smirking. "Save it, Mr. Harris. Take a number like everyone else." The gallery chuckled, but Benjamin's voice cracked. "I didn't." The judge slammed the gavel. "Enough." Benjamin stood weakly, trying to speak again, but no words came, just labored breaths. The bailiff signaled for him to sit back down, and he complied, his face unreadable. Outside, the rain was coming down harder, and a transport van pulled slowly down a slick road. Benjamin sat inside, shackled between two officers, his wrists aching from the tight cuffs. The vehicle rattled, the silence between them louder than any siren. They reached Northfield Correctional Facility just before noon. The towering concrete walls loomed over them, cold and indifferent. The gates creaked open slowly, almost reluctantly, as though the prison itself couldn't be bothered to hurry for an old man. As soon as Benjamin stepped out, the guards were there to push him forward. "Move it, old man," one grunted. Inside the prison, the fluorescent lights cast a sickly green glow. Officer Tom Hughes looked up from his clipboard, barely acknowledging Benjamin as he entered. "Name?" he asked. "Benjamin Harris." Hughes snorted. "Harris? Yeah, right." He wasn't interested. Benjamin didn't care. Benjamin was led through the hallway to his cell, D15. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of rust. His cellmate, a man named Rick Carter, looked at him as he entered. "You're the war hero they sent me." Rick muttered, amused. Benjamin didn't answer, just sank onto the lower bunk. He wasn't here to fight. He wasn't here for anything but rest. That night, as the lights dimmed, Benjamin lay awake on his bunk, his ribs aching from years of neglect and war. He reached into his coat, feeling the small object he kept hidden in its lining, an old dog tag, dull from age. The name was still etched there, a name no one remembered anymore. Benjamin whispered it into the darkness. Benjamin Harris. He wasn't nobody, but in this forgotten place, he'd have to prove that all over again. The next morning, Rick snickered as he jumped down from the top bunk, pulling on his jumpsuit. "You really should tell the guards you're already dead. Save everyone the trouble," he mocked. Benjamin didn't respond. He pulled on his coat and walked out of the cell, blending in with the sea of orange jumpsuits, heading toward the cafeteria. Breakfast was a tray of slop, but Benjamin didn't eat. He sat there, staring at the food in front of him, lost in thought. Across the room, a group of younger inmates eyed him like vultures. One nudged the other. "Is that him?" Rick, standing nearby with a smug grin, watched. "Yeah, old soldier boy." The next moment, one of the younger men slapped his tray, sending the oatmeal splattering onto Benjamin's coat. Another swiped his bread. "Don't you have any combat reflexes left, soldier?" Rick called out from the sidelines. Benjamin didn't react. One of the young men pushed him, sending him crashing to the floor. Blood dripped from his temple as he lay there, not because he couldn't get up, but because he was tired of being knocked down. He slowly pushed himself up and limped back to his cell, blood still trickling down his face. Later, Deputy John Adams noticed Benjamin as he passed. He saw the blood and paused. "You okay?" Benjamin didn't answer right away. His tired eyes met Adams's, and he nodded once, silently. "I'll keep going," he said, though the weight of it all was in his eyes. That evening, Adams sat at his desk, staring at the file in front of him. Benjamin Harris. The man had once carried soldiers through the worst of battles. Now, he was being mocked for a spilled tray of oatmeal. Adams stared at the paper for a long moment before picking up the phone. "Hey, do we still have access to the courthouse evidence locker?" A few days later, Benjamin sat quietly in his cell, clutching a worn towel to his head. He wasn't forgotten. Not anymore. At the courthouse, a new plaque was unveiled. It read, "Benjamin Harris, Sergeant, U.S. Army, Desert Storm." The man who wasn't forgotten. Judge Lyle Martin approached Benjamin in the front row, his voice steady but emotional. "We failed to see a hero," he said, before saluting him, his face filled with regret and respect. The crowd followed his lead, rising in honor of the man who had been forgotten, but who would never be again.